Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 26th episode of Coby's Brain. Thanks for joining us today. We've got some great reviews coming, so stay tuned. Up first, we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, a 2021 film directed by Destin Daniel Cretton. Shang-Chi is the 25th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's about a gifted martial artist who's the son of the infamous Ten Rings organization leader, and it's about his delusional father who seeks to destroy his Shang-Chi's deceased mother's village in order to try to bring her back to life. Yeah, so there are numerous reasons why this was an awesome movie, in my opinion. The action sequences, super cool. The comedic relief from Awkwafina and Ben Kingsley, of all people, were hilarious. I was laughing throughout. And also the soundtrack was really dope. Was really impressed with that. I think Shang-Chi and his sister are going to be awesome additions to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so that's also pretty exciting. One thing that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me was what the Ten Rings themselves do. Not the organization, the actual physical rings that give Shang-Chi's father his powers. They kind of just turn whoever wears them into a Superman with martial arts, and I don't know, it's a little confusing, but nonetheless, I'm glad Shang-Chi has them, and it allows for him to do some pretty insane things throughout the movie, which is necessary when he has to defeat a giant demon. And ultimately, Shang-Chi is an awesome addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So awesome. The action sequences were really cool, kind of a cross between that of typical Marvel superhero movies, but also with, a martial arts twist. And I think that made the action sequences of this movie really cool. And I was also thoroughly entertained by the comic relief. So we love this movie here on Coby's Brain. 8 on IMDb, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. And on Coby's Brain, we're giving it an 8.5 out of 10. Give it up for Shang-Chi. Next up, we have Rounders, a 1998 film directed by John Dahl. Rounders tells the story of a law student / poker player played by Matt Damon, whose friend, played by Edward Norton, named Worm, is a total cheater in poker, and gets him into a lot of trouble within the New York poker community. Rounders it's super entertaining movie, super entertaining, and I think that has a lot to do with the awesome cast. Unreal. You got Matt Damon, Edward Norton, John Malkovich. Oh, it's great. John Malkovich, it's great. And it has it's kind of a noir film mixed with a sports film in the fact that the poker Matt Damon's character really wants to make it into the World Series of Poker. So he wants to be really legit. So it's pretty interesting. And I think people with a knowledge of poker will really, really like this movie. On the other hand, John Malkovich is not the best Russian, but it's still he's great. He's super entertaining. Love that guy. Give it up for John Malkovich. Additionally, the film kind of inspires you to want to become a professional poker player, which might not be a great message for the youth, but I don't know. Maybe it's fine. Who knows? I guess that's a good career for some people, but gambling addiction is not fun. Anyways, ultimately, because of the cast, exciting story, and suspenseful poker games, it's just no surprise why this movie is supposedly one of the best poker movies ever made. It's got a 7.3 on IMDb, 65% on Rotten Tomatoes, and on Coby's Brain, we're giving it an 8 out of 10. We enjoyed Rounders here on Coby's Brain. Thought it was pretty entertaining. Up next, we have Malignant, a 2021 horror film directed by James Wan. So, Malignant is a horror film about a mysterious killer who violently murders people in the Seattle area, while the murders are inexplicably witnessed by the main character, Madison. And I'll leave my description at that because any further info might reveal the twist. I really liked this movie. Really liked it. I like horror movies, but don't like when they're not super unique. Whereas this one, wow, super unique. I've never seen anything like it. I like the twist. The twist was great. Parts of it were pretty unbelievable and a little ridiculous, but nonetheless, super cool movie. If you want to, I don't think the twist works for everyone, but for me, my mind was blown. Ultimately, yeah, the movie's twist blew my mind. So if you combine that with the shock value of the horrific violence, which was pretty crazy, I was entertained. James Wan's movies, they just do it for me generally. So not everyone agreed. It got 6.3 IMDb, 75% Rotten Tomatoes. But here on Coby's Brain, we are giving Malignant an 8.3 out of 10. Means we really recommend it. Curious to hear other people's thoughts on the Malignant twist. Next up, we have The Color Purple, a 1985 film directed by none other than Steven Spielberg. The Color Purple is an epic drama about the life of a black woman named Celie Harris, played by Whoopi Goldberg in her debut role, who lives in rural Georgia in the early 20th century. The film is super well done, super emotionally powerful, and a fascinating look at the postbellum South. Its cast, which includes Danny Glover, Adolph Caesar, Oprah Winfrey, and Whoopi Goldberg, is great. Really good cast, and it's an epic. I love epics because when you watch an epic, you really, by the end of it, get that feeling of rebirth that we crave so much in watching movies. I think Spielberg really kind of spent the whole film kind of setting up that cry for the audience at the end, which didn't totally do it for me. I didn't cry, but I came pretty damn close. And Spielberg, he almost got me there. It was still a pretty great ending. Loved that. And ultimately, it's the epic film showcases a lot of the difficulties of domestic violence and racism in the South in the early 20th century. And you got to hand it to Steven Spielberg. He knows how to make a great, emotionally riveting movie. It got a 7.8 on IMDb, 81% on Rotten Tomatoes, and on Coby's Brain, we're giving it an 8.1 out of 10. Really great movie, really talented cast, and truly a classic. Up next, we have Vivo, a 2021 film directed by Kirk D'Amico. Vivo is an animated musical comedy about a kinkajou, which is a type of monkey that lives in Cuba, named Vivo, played by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who must deliver his deceased owner's song to the woman of his deceased owner's dreams. Lin-Manuel Miranda, he makes great songs. They're all super catchy, so I think the score was pretty good, even though I'm not a huge musical fan. The animation was beautiful. It looked a lot like Pixar, which I think is not super typical of Sony, if you look at, like the Spider-Verse and the Mitchells movie, what was that? I forget what that movie was called. The one with the Mitchells. Those I feel like have a somewhat more unique look to them, whereas this one looked like it totally could have been made by Pixar, which isn't a bad thing. I love Pixar, obviously, so I thought the movie actually looked great, honestly. But the story is fine. It's not super engaging. It's just kind of what you'd expect. Ultimately, Vivo was pretty good. Lin-Manuel Miranda as an adorable kinkajou who sings is enough to carry the movie. That's all you need. You're not going to make a bad movie with that. But it doesn't go a whole lot further than that. So we on Coby's Brain are giving Vivo a 7.6 out of 10. That's not a bad review. Up next, we have The Reagans, created by Matt Turnauer. The Reagans is a mini docuseries about Ronald and Nancy Reagan and the impact of the Reagan presidency. I'm a huge fan of history, and I thought that this 4-part miniseries was super interesting. Does a great job of diving into. I think the most interesting thing for me to see was the Hollywood background of Ronald Reagan and how that kind of eventually led to his career in politics, how that transition happened. And it really makes one think. It's an interesting perspective in the wake of the Trump presidency, how similar the two figures were in a number of ways. They were also very different in a number of ways. But one thing that they really seem to have in common is that mythologization of America and the American dream. That's pretty interesting. It's an interesting kind of tactic of the Republican Party to really have people take pride in that myth of America and it being this amazing place. And I think that's true in a lot of ways, but I think that certain politicians are clearly able to exploit the nostalgia and sentiment that a lot of people have for that myth that in a lot of ways is created by Hollywood, but nonetheless, super thought-provoking series, and also about Nancy Reagan. Learning about her was really cool, really interesting. I think it would have been interesting to hear from some people who. The series was obviously super critical of Ronald Reagan and his presidency. I think it would have been a little interesting to get some more supporters talking of his, but nonetheless, it was really cool. And ultimately, the miniseries was fascinating and really makes one think about that American myth of this great idyllic America that is brought into the cultural consciousness by people like Ronald Reagan and like Donald Trump, and that we're programmed to believe from a really young age. Really is an interesting thing to think about. So the show got a 6.6 on IMDb, 83% on Rotten Tomatoes, and on Coby's Brain, we loved it. We loved this mini docu-series. We gave it an 8.2 out of 10. And now we are transitioning to Coby's music blog, and we are going to start with Kanye West's Donda, the August 2021 album. Donda is Kanye West's long-awaited, most recent album that is named after his mother. And I was not a huge fan of Kanye's last album, but this album is full of bangers, which include Jail featuring Jay-Z, Off the Grid featuring Fivio Foreign and Playboi Carti. That's a banger. That's a grade A banger. Hurricane featuring The Weeknd and Lil Baby. Praise God featuring Baby Keem and Travis Scott. That's a banger. Baby Keem is killing it right now. He just dropped an album that we're not going to be reviewing this week, but I think on the next show we'll be reviewing. OK featuring Fivio Foreign, Lil Yachty, and Ruga. And Pure Souls featuring Roddy Ricch and Shenseea. So a lot of the songs didn't really do it for me on this album. Nor did Kanye's verses. I think that what really carries this album are the features, and apparently there were a lot of people involved with this album, and so parts of it are really incredible, and I think that it was inevitable that this album was going to be fire. So ultimately, I thought this album was a huge improvement over his last one, Jesus is King. I think he really kind of, in a lot of ways, got back to the Kanye that I used to love so much. Yeezus was like my favorite album in high school, and I think parts of this album really reminded me of that, which was great. Kanye's musical career has not ended. And it got a 6 on Pitchfork. And here on Coby's Brain, we are giving Donda an 8.4 out of 10. That's a great review. But how will it do in comparison? The question obviously everyone's asking is, how will it do in comparison to Drake's Certified Lover Boy? Hear the answer in the next review. And finally, the review everyone's been asking for, Drake Certified Lover Boy, the September 2021 album. Drake's long-awaited Certified Lover Boy is his latest album, and upon its release, I kind of realized that I might not be the best person to be reviewing an album by Drake and comparing it to Kanye, because I think I'm a huge Drake fan. I think he's really awesome, and I'm the kind of person that people make memes about. Nonetheless, I'm going to go ahead and review it. Bangers on the album include Poppy's Home, Girls Want Girls featuring Lil Baby, Fair Trade featuring Travis Scott, total banger. Total banger. Those two, when they get together, they make heat. Is it as good as Sicko Mode? Probably not. But is it a banger? Hell yeah. Way Too Sexy featuring Future and Young Thug. In Too Deep featuring Future. No Friends in the Industry, which is just a classic Drake banger that no collaboration necessary on this. It's just him just going off. And Knife Talk featuring 21 Savage and Project Pat. But I really liked a lot of the album. A lot of the album was really great. Not super innovative for Drake. Nonetheless, doesn't need to be. He's at the top. Many would argue he's at the top of the rap game. Why would he change? Why does he need to change what he's doing? Regardless, and so ultimately, Drake is an incredibly talented rapper who can really back up his grandiose flexes. And again, many would argue he's at the top of the rap game right now and likely will be for a while. I think he kind of crushed it with this album. It got a 6.6 on Pitchfork, but here on Coby's Brain, we're giving it a 9.1 out of 10. That's a gold coin for Drake. That's a gold Coby coin for Drake. Congratulations, Drake. Well done. Got, compared to the silver 8.4 Coby coin from Donda, it does mean that Certified Lover Boy, compared to Donda, is higher ranked here on Coby's Brain. Nonetheless, they were both great albums. We loved both of them here on Coby's Brain. They both got fantastic reviews, and it's great. It's really been a great month for us music fans who have been just eating. We've been eating nonstop, and I just want to thank everyone who's been putting out this new music all this new music that's been keeping Coby's ears nice and fed. So that's all the reviews we have for today. You know that we'll be back in a couple weeks with more reviews, though, so get excited for that. And thank you so much for watching. Keep watching, and have a great rest of your day.